Applying for dual citizenship? Need documents translated? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translation and interpretation services in 20 different languages. Be sure to visit www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. So, Kathy, are you ready for our second guest?
I am so excited.
So excited.
So excited to hear from Chris.
Well. So our next guest, with any further ado, is Chris Fennimore. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, of an Italian-American family. Chris is an institution in the broadcast community. It's just an honor to have him with us. In 1985, he joined WQED as the Director of National Programming. He's a former food columnist for the Pittsburgh magazine. But the food, the passion that Chris has led him to introduce a format of TV broadcasting, the cooking show marathon. And I think a lot of other TVs looked at how successful Chris was indeed with this cooking marathon. That's probably took inspiration, let's call it that way.
Borrowed inspiration, shall we say. Borrowed.
He's also, he's contributed recipes for more than 100 community cookbooks, and he's also author himself. I love my copy of Stuffed. And he's also the winner of the prestigious James Beard Award. And on a Wednesday evening, if you're lucky and you go to the club in the north side, you will know that also Chris plays a mean banjo. Welcome, Chris Fennimore.
Viviana, you make me sound so interesting.
You are a legend. But for those of the 0.111% of our listeners that might not be familiar with Chris Fennimore, we always ask you to share a little bit about your background. To tell us a little bit also about maybe figures in your family that were very charismatic, or any traditions of your Italian-American upbringing.
We grew up in my grandmother's house. My grandmother was the oldest of 8 sisters, the Bacci girls. And their father built 2 houses back to back. And all of his daughters lived in these 2 houses. And then their children and their children's children lived in those houses. And so we had our own little Sicilian community right there in the middle of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Oh, you're Sicilian. My mother was born in Sicily. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I'm half Sicilian and half Italian.
Okay. Yes, there's an important distinction between the two. Yes. Okay.
But I'd have to say that it was my grandmother's and my mother's influence that was the greatest on me culturally, because they kept the language alive, they kept the recipes, the traditions, and, we ate special foods on Santa Lucia, the Feast of San Giuseppe. We had to have the stingy, we had to have certain things on certain days. You have to have it. Lupini beans, Santa Lucia, and they told us why. They really went through the effort to make us use those things in the right way, and I carried on that because I love it. I love to carry on food traditions, and we've made lots in our own family. There's certain things that we just do. They have nothing to do with Italian tradition. They just have to do with the things that we like to do at certain times, or with certain ingredients, or when they're available. And then I have 2 daughters and a son. My youngest daughter ended up living in Rome. Mm-hmm. So it sort of comes full circle here when I go to visit her, because she has really adopted that country and loves the lifestyle and the way of life there. She has 2 little boys. And, of course, I love to go and visit my grandsons. And even when I'm not there, I'm connected because we do a weekly online cooking class between me and the boys. And I teach them sort of the basics of the things that I learned from my mother and my grandmother. So, we're always working it.
Well, actually, what you shared about your daughter living in Rome. So this is how things are meant to be. Istituto Mondo Italiano is just down the street from your house, and we always keep the place open to anyone that wants to come and also look at the space, La Dolce Vita Boutique. And one day I remember this lovely young woman coming in, and she spoke beautiful Italian, and she said, I live in Rome. And I said, you live in Rome permanently? She said, yes, but my father lives up the street. And I said, who is your father? I said, oh, it's Chris Fennimore. And that's how I found out that you were a regular Roman, usually between January and February, I think. That's your way of being a, what do you call it, snowbird, a Roma bird? People that go to Florida usually to escape. So then I started to see pictures of you going to the Mercato del Testaccio, having your pastry at Linari. And when I got to Rome this past summer, I kind of traced back your stomping grounds. And so can you tell us what is the life of Chris Fennimore in Rome like? And some of the things that you might do the same, some of the things that you might be different, doing differently because you have access to different ingredients. So take us to Rome with you.
Well, here's the thing. They live in a little neighborhood called Testaccio, which I don't think it's on any of the tourist maps except, there are some things that are in Testaccio, the pyramid, and some other things. There's a gigantic mountain of pottery shards. That is what Testaccio means. And Monte Testaccio is the mountain of shards. And it was that way because it was an area right on the Tiber River where boats could come in and come out and collect stuff and leave stuff. And it also then became it started out as the place where all of the olive oil came in and out of Rome. And then it changed to be the mattatoio, the meat market. And it was like a gigantic, huge acres and acres of slaughterhouses and places where they would prepare meat, and then it would go back out on barges to other cities and also then right into the city of Rome. That mattatoio is closed, but the remnant of that neighborhood are these beautiful houses that they put up for all the workers at the mattatoio, and it's like a housing development, but they're beautiful apartment complexes with a central park area for each group of houses, and so that's one of the nice things about living. I live in an apartment that's right across the hallway from my daughter, but I look out my kitchen window right onto the little park area, and I see trees and flowers, and you wouldn't even know where you are. You could be in Fox Chapel, so it's gorgeous. And if I go out the door and turn the corner, I look out over the Tiber River. So this little neighborhood is nestled in a corner of the Tiber River, far enough away from the most tourist areas that you don't see, flocks of people with the umbrella hold. They hold up the umbrella so they know which group they're in and whatnot. It is just a working class neighborhood, and it reminds me so much of the kind of stores and people and way of life that I grew up with in the 1950s in Brooklyn, New York, because you didn't have any chains. No, there was nothing. There was every store you knew the person who owned it. Faico's pork store, Aiello's Solomeria. We knew the people, and you knew what they had, and they catered to the demand that Italian people seem to have for quality ingredients. And that persists in this neighborhood in an amazing place called the Mercato. The Mercato Testaccio is a block big. It's a block all around, and it's inside are all these different stalls, and it is covered, so you can go in there even on a rainy day, and you can shop for the freshest vegetables, meats, fish, They have specialists, just produce from Sicily, just certain kinds of grains and whatnot. It is a dream come true for somebody who cares about food. The people who do the fruits and vegetables, I think, vie with each other to say, mine is fresher, mine is fresher. It's all about being really fresh and beautiful. They take the time to lay out all their vegetables in contrasting colors. You have these beautiful, deep red, gigantic peppers next to yellow peppers, next to green broccolini, next to radicchio with the purples, and they have I've taken a lot of pictures of this, and it just amazes me to go back and look at them and realize that they do this every day. To put that all together, the butchers will cut any kind of part that you want, and they'll prepare it the way you want. You don't get that at the at the A&P or the grocery store.
Now, the Mercato in Testaccio also, isn't it a really good place to sample Roman street food? Are there vendors, and what are your favorite places? When you go to the Mercato in Testaccio, where do you go?
Well, the first thing I do is I go by Casa Manco, which is I hate to call it a pizza place. It is not.
It's a family.
It's a pizza family, maybe. But what Paola is doing back there is creating some of the most outrageously flavorful combinations of ingredients, and then she puts it on her husband Andrea's bread dough, and they that they have baked and whatnot, but. It's not. If you think of pizza and you're thinking of Aiello's or Minio's or whatever you're thinking, that's not what you're going to get there.
Is it more like the style of pizza al taglio, or
it is?
How is it different from Minio's
They'll cut you a little piece, and they'll cut that piece into pieces for you. You can go there and get like 4 samples, and they'll cut it up into 12 pieces, and you can have your friends sitting with you and sampling all of these delicious things. Actually, one of my favorite things in the morning is just to get a piece of sesamo, which is sesame seed crusted dough that, but then it's also sprinkled with the most delicious olive oil and salt, and you just have that as a precursor to your lunch. And then I go to the cafe that's right there in the middle of the market and have my sesamo with a caffè doppio molto lungo.
Molto lungo.
The woman behind the counter, when I walk up, she goes, "Oh, buongiorno, lungo lungo."
Doppio lungo,
lungo, of course, lungo.
Lungo.
Now, are there any seasonal vegetables that you only see in Rome that time of the year that you're there? That, for instance, I'm super fond of puntarelle, which is the part that you don't get here. I mean, you can get chicories within the same family, but you don't get the sprouts. I don't know how to call them.
Yeah. And it is in season when I'm there in January and February, and they have it. It looks like it's expensive, but then you realize that that's by the kilo. So, and that you only have to get like a few ettos in order to have a serving of this delicious green that you don't get here at all. And I know Viviana is fond of the alice dressing that they put on it, which is traditional in Rome. And as a matter of fact, I should mention sooner or later, we're going to do a show called When in Rome, and featuring recipes that I encounter those special ingredients and styles when I'm in Rome. One of the things that I want to do is the puntarelle, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get puntarelle. We'll use some sort of vegetable, but I want to have Viviana. I want you to come on and make that alicia dressing for it.
Okay, absolutely. As we continue our conversation, if anyone would like to talk to Chris, we're going to open up the phone lines, but we have so many questions for you. The magic number is 412-825-6262. One more time, 412-825-6262. In the some of the pictures I had asked you to send me, it looks like you had some sort of family reunion, or some of your closest family also came to Rome. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience where all the Fennimores got together in Rome?
It's just crazy, and I think it's because it reminds everyone once they get here of how we grew up in Brooklyn, in our little neighborhood. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I have an older sister, a younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. And they all managed to come, and when possible, with their families, to stay for a certain amount of time. And we try to time it so that we're the most of us that are there, at one time. But some of us stay over longer, like I do. I stay there for the 2 or 3 months. And so it's easy for people to catch me there. But and then they all just love this way of life. My brother Joe, I think that if Paola wasn't already married to Andrea, she'd be facing a real onslaught from my brother, because he doesn't want to leave that place. He just loves it there. He loves her, and he loves the food. And so as I say, we get together. We go to the market. We'll get all kinds of things. My brother Chuck is a fabulous cook. He's especially good with seafood, so he'll make some seafood thing. We'll make some different pastas. We'll make some of the delicious meats that we get from the butcher. Cesare was my butcher, but he's retiring. I can't believe it. But I could go to Cesare, and he knows just how I like to have my cutlets sliced, just the thickness that I want, because we've been through this a couple of times. And that's what you just can't get unless you're in that kind of marketplace with that kind of a relationship with the artisan behind the counter.
We just can't get that here. Chris, we have one caller who is on the line. We have one caller on the line here.
Hi, Chris. I was just thinking, all of us that have grown up in an Italian family, we can think back at one particular recipe that we really love that always brings a smile to our face. And I was wondering, do you have one particular recipe that you always think back on?
I have about 100.
Okay.
But
you have to pick one. Just one. We only have about 10 minutes here.
My mother, on special occasions, and that could be you requested for your birthday, or if it was a special holiday Sunday dinner, she would make manicotti. And they were with a light crepe that she would make. She put the ricotta and the mozzarella cheese inside, lots of fresh parsley and some grated Romano cheese. They were just light and fluffy, and you could eat. I could eat 10 of them. Now I could eat one. But so I think I always think back to that as sort of my favorite dish growing up. But there were so many that I just loved and looked forward to. The spadini that my grandmother did, they were little rolled up pieces of beef, originally veal, but we couldn't afford the veal later. So they switched to beef. My mom would get an eye round and put it on the slicer and slice it paper thin. Then you stuff that with a mixture of flavored breadcrumbs, mozzarella, a piece of tomato, put it on a skewer, rub breadcrumbs on the outside, plain breadcrumbs, and barbecue it if it's possible. My great-grandfather, Giuseppe Bacci, used to have a little what I called a bacci grill. Not a hibachi grill, just a bachi
The predecessor to the George Foreman grill, right?
It was an old wash bucket that was worn out and had a hole in it. So he would put coals in the bottom of it. He punched holes so that there would be some draft, and he would just put the skewers over the top of that pail and make these delicious spadini that we would eat right off the skewer.
So it was a Sicilian barbecue, basically.
Always goes back to the Sicilian.
I always have to go back to the Sicilian. I'm
because
sorry.
Sicilians do it better.
They do everything better. The best food in Italy. I'm sorry.
Well, you definitely enjoy great diversity because of the different influences that Sicilian cuisine had. Chris, do you have any travel plans? Is it usually, the kind of the January, February time frame? Does your daughter come and visit you? Maybe she can stop again to see us. Probably the kids have grown up since last time.
She is planning on coming in July. She's going to come here to Pittsburgh and stay for maybe a week in our house. So her husband's parents are in New York City, so they'll spend a few days there. And she wants to come here to Pittsburgh to see all her old Pittsburgh friends and stay with me, and I can look after the boys and give her a break. And then I will be going back, with fingers crossed. I'll be going back next winter as well.
Now, Chris,
so if you're in Rome in January or February, come to the Mercato. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be having my lungo lungo right in
your lungo lungo. I will have my bomba la crema.
Chris, you talked about Testaccio. Do you have any other neighborhoods that you frequent when you spend time in Rome? What are your favorite other places besides Testaccio?
Well, I have places that I love to go, but they're not the same kind of neighborhood feel. I love to go up into Centro and actually just people watch. I go up to the Piazza Navona or down into the Campo di Fiore. And
Campo di Fiore is like an open theater.
Yes,
definitely. It is. And you can just get yourself a coffee and sit there, and it is endlessly entertaining. And by the way, if you go to the Campo di Fiore, do not miss going to the little sandwich place right on the corner of the Campo, and it's
Il Forno.
It's called Forno.
Forno. Yes, I know. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Forno. And they sell some of the most delicious cookies and the best mortadella sandwich in Rome. So I
can attest to that. I had one of them. They're delicious.
With cicoria.
I'm salivating thinking about
it. So, Chris, sorry if I interrupt you. We're having such a great time here. The time is indeed flying. Just 1 minute left. Anything that you would like to tell your audience what you're working on or how they can contribute or anything? You mentioned something before. Maybe you want to mention one more time.
We're working on putting together a show that when we finally can get back into the studio. We've not been able to get back into the studio since the beginning of this pandemic. And they are remodeling the studio, and we're getting ready to get back into be able to do some productions. And as soon as we can, the first show we're going to do is When in Rome. And on that show, we're going to put together a new cookbook, and we're going to have guests like you, Viviana, come on and give us some authentic remembrances of the cuisine of Rome. Everything carciofi. We'll do your puntarella. Just endless things. Supplì. We got to do arancini and supplì.
Carbonara. You have to make pasta alla carbonara.
Yes, we got to do cacio e pepe, which is
cacio e pepe, yes, amatriciana. We can go on and on and on and start salivating here.
So it'll be a long show. It'll be like a 2-hour show.
Well, unfortunately, our hour is almost up.
And so we want to thank you, but our big band, our clock has said stop, ha detto stop.
And it's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank everyone for listening. We want to thank you too, Chris. And if you have any questions, or any of our listeners have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And Viviana, before we leave, who will be our next guest next week?
Next week, our guest will be the renowned food historian Karima Moyer-Nocchi, author of Chewing the Fat, an oral history of Italian foodways from fascism to La Dolce Vita, and also The Eternal Table, a cultural history of food in Rome. Please tune in next week as we discuss this fascinating topic.
We've been inspired by Chris Fennimore's passion for preserving traditional family recipes, and the Italian Radio Hour is planning on putting together a cookbook inspired by the recipes of our listeners. If you have a traditional and or regional Italian family recipe that you would like to have included in this cookbook, please submit it to us at our email address, theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We hope to have the cookbook available around Mother's Day, so please don't wait to send us your recipes. And as a reminder, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, please visit our website at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour tab.
Vorremmo ringraziare i nostri ospiti Angelo Carotenuto e Chris Fennimore, il nostro sponsor Istituto Mondo Italiano, e alla Boara per la musica. And finally, before we leave, here is our trivia question for next week. What does metterci una pietra sopra mean? Again, what does metterci una pietra sopra mean? You can send in your answer to the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com.
And if you are not in the Pittsburgh area or you might be traveling, remember, you can catch us streaming live at khbradio.com every Thursday at 5 p.m. And be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao!
The Italian Radio Hour has been sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.